It's a pleasure to have you with us as we dive in to the exciting topic, which tech conferences will give you the biggest career boost? We're fortunate to be joined by a group of thought leaders who bring a wealth of expertise and practical perspective to the conversation. Now, time to introduce our incredible panelists. To start us off, please welcome Nico Bernie Miller, the CEO of Change 3.
Hi. So we are a growth agency, and I'm also really honored because I'm not the star of the show. Brian O'Connell is, and I'm honored to be Brian's fractional CMO for his conferences. He's got a bunch of really incredible conferences for the tech audiences. So I'm going to actually just put my attention to him because he's really the star.
Awesome. Well,
Well,
let's hear it
thanks.
from Brian. Oh.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that segue in, and thanks for prepping me to be on the spot here. So, thank you all for joining. My name is Brian O'Connell, and I actually will give you a quick background. I spent about 24, 25 years with Wells Fargo Bank in the technology and cybersecurity sector, if you will. I've done every position possible in the bank throughout that side within the cybersecurity area. So you name it from the bottom to the top. And so one of my favorite parts of the job was actually interacting in the relationship management and just meeting a lot of people within my own organization and my customers, if you will. Um, so with that being said, after 24, 25 years, I decided that I would take my love for interacting with people and seeing people come together and creating great environments of team sharing and things of that nature, bring it to the conferences. So basically, I joined a company and I am the COO, and I basically oversee multiple conferences throughout the year. And I'm super excited about sharing a lot of information with you all. But thank you for that quick introduction, and I'll pass it back over to you.
Woohoo! Let's begin by exploring our first data set, which captures insight from 124 technology business decision makers regarding their primary motivations for attending a tech conference this year. Now, I'm going to turn it over to Nico to share her perspective on the data being shown on the screen and offer insights into how trade shows can influence tech career growth.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, a lot of folks are talking about AI and how it's affecting information workers. I was really excited to join one of Brian's conferences earlier this year, the Microsoft 365 Community Conference in Las Vegas. It was an incredible experience, and some really high level Microsoft executives were there talking. But you know what struck me? And I don't know if Brian, if you think about this too, but what really struck me is Jared Spataro, is that how you say it? Jared Spataro. He's like a super high level guy at Microsoft. And he was talking about all this work that they've been doing with Copilot. And, Microsoft owns part of ChatGPT. And he started to talk about these agents and how Copilot is digital labor. And I never thought of it that way before because I'm stupid. I'm sure the rest of you are like, oh, yeah, that was yesterday's news. But for me, it was like a total headline. It was like, oh my gosh. And as I was listening to him talk and as I joined all of this, so many sessions and everything, I realized that, just like at the turn of the century where people who were screwing bolts down and doing things manually, they got their workflow got changed by industrialization, and like assembly lines and manufacturing processes. Well, I feel like kind of we're in a similar place where AI or this digital labor will make us more efficient and change the way we work. And for some people, it might limit their careers, but in most cases, I think it'll help them grow. So what's the point? How can trade shows impact a tech career, a technologist's career growth? Well, I think that right now, technologists in particular, IT managers, systems architects, database administrators, CIOs, you name it, like y'all have so much stuff to absorb right now and like get into your brain and so many ideas to ferret out and visions to vet and validate because there is so much happening right now in technology. You've got AI and cybersecurity, like Brian was talking about, and custom applications and data center and storage, optimization, just all this stuff. You guys have so many things to be expert on. I think the best way for you to data dump it and to drink from the fire hose is at a trade show where it's like total immersive experience. You go, you talk to other people in your role, you talk to the experts, you ask questions, you get sessions. They tell you what the hot topics are. I mean, there's no faster, more efficient way to absorb a lot of information. So I think for technology people in particular, I think like they need to be doing like 2, 3 trade shows a year, like to just keep their skills, like, skills up. What do you think about that, Brian?
So I'm gonna let you stand on the technical background and gaining those skill sets, and I'm gonna lean in today more on the relationship management part
Okay.
and
Okay.
relations and community, if you will. So
Hmm.
when I'm looking for a show to go to, I'm looking for one where, for the most part, I'm going to meet a lot of people. When I think about upskilling, that's going to be obvious, right? We're going to
Yeah.
go to a conference, we're going to learn new skill sets. We might actually have the opportunity to hear some insider news about and be the first to know about a new product coming out or a new
Hmm.
technology, whatever the case may be. But for me, I think in a tech career, I'm going to be surrounded by a lot of people. And a lot of conferences that I put on and that I've been to, they're just full of recruiters, hiring managers looking for talent, believe it or not. So,
Hmm.
in my perspective, even to the shows that I conduct, I will personally make sure that I have let's say talent management teams that are interested in coming there. They might not be in the expo hall because we don't want it to be a too much of that, but we will bring people on to ensure that they're there to interact with the community and to be able to see, hey, it's free advertisement, try to hire people from these shows. Another big reason why I think the tech conference is a great place for your skill set is just showing up and asking smart questions. And in some of the shows, if you're a sponsor, you also get the opportunity maybe to sneak in a 30-minute speaking session. So
Yeah.
there's 30 minutes that I'm in front of anywhere from 3,000 to 6,000 people
Wow.
to be able
Hmm.
to, do my sales pitch, if you will. Um, so it's really for me, it's about that. It's about having the experience with multiple people. Yes, again, there's the skill sets that you can learn, but for me, I'm showing up to the show because I want to get in front of a lot of people who might have an opportunity for me to come and work for them.
For
And
sure.
then lastly, there's a lot of shows that have like these intensive workshops. So a
Hmm.
lot of times we go to these 100 level conferences where basically you're getting the sales pitch from them. Like, come buy my
Hmm.
product and here's the
Hmm.
basics. For the shows that I enjoy and that I look for and the ones that I do, we're looking at deep dives where I'm sitting in workshops where I can be hands on and I can sit and interact with the speaker, with the company, with the peer next to me that has the same issues that I might be challenged with, where I can sit there and I can learn from them and vice versa. So I won't go too much further with that answer, but again, I'm all about the community and being able to be there on site and get my face in front of a lot of people. And the more doors I can knock on as a salesperson, right? The more opportunities
Yeah.
I have to get that yes and hey, come check out this posting that I have. So
Yeah. You know what? You hit on so many golden points. So I couldn't agree with you more. Like the networking, the community, not only for IT professionals, but salespeople, people who might want to, or companies that want an exhibition at a show. Like there's no better way to build that healthy, one of a kind relationship by interacting with people in person. And if you look at the data, right, we're perfect. We weren't paying attention. But the data is like the number one reason is right to access that, top technology and tools. And the second reason is the, like you said, Brian, the community piece, the peer networking, the leadership exposure. the career growth and certifications. So I think that's great. I think for technology people in particular, though, guys, here definitely hear me out because my other job is as an economist. Is like technology people are in high demand. There's I think the last time I looked, it was like 6 or 700,000 unfilled cybersecurity positions alone. So like there's a great need for people with technology skills, but what we're finding, and when I work with the team at BeTechly, what we find is that a lot of technology people or IT professionals have a certain skill set, and that skill set may not be where the big growth or the big demand is. So for you, if you're, listening in and you're like, hey, okay, I'm a database administrator, for example, well, you might need to bone up on your development skills. You might need to expand your cyber intelligence, cybersecurity skills. There might be some things you need to expand in terms of your knowledge about AI and become more broad based as a technology professional, because it's such a fluid environment right now. So that's always what we were, like I was saying earlier, is the best way for you to skill up, make connections, meet new people, is a trade show, right? And it'll add value
Mhm.
to you, but it'll also add value to your team and your company. So that's what I would say about that.
Thank you. So, as we discuss, the impact of trade shows on career growth, I'm gonna flash something on the screen.
Cool.
Career growth, in the tech industry. I want to highlight four exceptional conferences that can help you achieve this. So,
Yep. Awesome. I love it. So these are just four of Brian's company's conferences. They're actually some of the largest. So Brian, do you want to talk everybody through them, or do you want me to do it?
Yeah, I can certainly talk through a bit of it and have you jump in. So, I want to first off say this is absolutely like if you come to one of these shows and you see the deals out, I definitely would love to have you at the show, but really, this isn't a sales pitch to come to any of my
Mhm.
shows by any stretch of the imagination. However, I would love to see you there. But the first one that I'll talk about is actually in October, right here. It's the Power Platform Community Conference. What sets this aside is basically we're predict last year we were a little over 6,000 people, tons of workshops, pre-workshops, post-workshops, and then 2 full days of 15 different rooms, 1 hour sessions, just swapping. You just pick and
Wow.
choose whatever tracks you want to go to. Again, that's a lot of sessions, 15 rooms running every hour, new sessions.
Wow.
Um,
Yeah.
these are
amazing.
great opportunities again to just go out there and meet with the community. Again, I started this call talking about the community. And the reason why I love these conferences is I'm not here to sell a darn thing. I don't sell products and services. What I do is I get the community together. And so the community gets together, they solve real world problems together. And when I do these shows, I do them at big box hotels. And what that means is that you can actually go to sessions all day long, but then after the sessions, you're staying at the same hotel. It's not a convention center. You don't just walk off site and, okay, I was in class all day, I'm done with it. You'll see people at Starbucks, you'll see people at
Yeah.
the hotel restaurants walking down the hallway with their badges. And then we do
Mhm.
tons of events. Like this year we have Christina Aguilera. She's going to come and do a performance and do a little arena party. We have some huge
Wow.
keynote speakers coming as
Ooh.
well. Charles Lamanna, who's the CVP
Wow.
of the Power Platform sector. But my biggest thing to tell you is when we're looking at shows, it's really important that you're not before you go to the show, research all the speakers and look through that. And what's big to me about our shows is you're going to be hearing from the developers and the engineers of these products. So whether it's products from Microsoft, which is our main sponsor, bring over 150 speakers to these shows, but again, they're not from the marketing team. These are folks that are actually developing from the product that enjoy coming to the show because they're going to hear from the users who are using their products and get direct feedback. There's no filter at all. They're going to hear directly the questions that you have, the impacts that an issue that you may have that they can help you solve, or just hear about tweaks you would like to see and enhancements. I'm not going to go through each of my shows in that much detail because it's all centered around the same concept. The concept is that you come to these shows and you're not hearing from sales, you're not being sold anything. You're learning and you're working together to solve problems and try to see if this could be implemented into your organization, if you will. Again, I don't sell
Mm.
products or services. I'm not affiliated with Microsoft, but a large portion of our speakers are from Microsoft. We put on the show, they sponsor the show, and they come out and they teach, and you can learn a lot of information. Um, so, with that being said, there's just a,
Perfect.
a lot of good material at these shows, and I suggest that in the links, I hope that we can give them the links to each of the
Yeah.
shows. We have a
Mhm.
cybersecurity show that's coming up in Orlando. Okay, so that's cybersecurity. Then we have a dev show coming up also in October. They're co-located together, so you'll see
Yeah.
cybersecurity content, and then for the dev intersection, you'll see a lot of developer tracks and sessions, if you will. And then lastly, we have our next gen AI, our AI track. So this is a pretty much a 3 for 1. So you go, you
Yeah.
register, and you basically have content 14, 15 rooms running all day long, different tracks going on that you can pick and choose. It doesn't matter if I registered for cybersecurity, I can still go to an AI track. I can go to a dev track because guess what?
Mhm.
Cybersecurity is in every single realm, right?
It is.
Cybersecurity is everywhere. So again, not a sales pitch, but again, this is why I do what I do. That's why it
Yeah.
aligns with somewhat a sales pitch because my big thing is looking at what the show has to offer me. Is this a one-on-one type of class, or am I going to get a deep dive? Am I going to get an intimate setting where I can communicate and not just come and listen to somebody preach and speak to me, but I get to speak back. I get to ask my questions to either my peers or that speaker. There's AMAs, ask me anythings that we hold throughout the week, and things of that nature. So I'm going to turn it over to Nico.
Awesome.
So you experienced our
That's
show for
so
the first time, as you
awesome.
said,
Yeah.
so you can
Yeah.
speak as a newbie. So
Yeah, yeah. So like what we talked about, and for the folks on the live stream and the folks in the room, like I said, I'm an introvert, so I don't always go. I'm not always one to want to go to an event. Early in my career when I was 13, because now I'm only 25, but when I was a lot younger, I used to do trade shows all the time, and I'm gonna age myself, so it'd be like Internet World and Supercom and stuff like that, and it would be these big shows like what Brian puts on, and so that's why when I started to work with Brian and his team, I was so excited because I forgot about how exciting it is, right? All that energy and all the interaction. And I don't know about you guys, but what we've seen in the research is that since the lockdown, it's been harder for people to kind of get back to usual norms. But last year was the largest consumer electronics show, CES, which is the largest trade show in the world, was the largest one ever, and it was like 500,000 people. And it's
Mm.
because people are craving that interaction that Brian was talking about. And I think that this is a year, I really mean this as an economist and as a thought leader. I think this is a year that business people, but definitely technologists, have got to expand their skill set to understand more things and really understand the intersections of key technologies, because a lot of these things are intersecting. When I get involved, we work with IBM, we work with Cisco, we work with Microsoft, we work with a lot of different companies. And when you talk to them, you find that they're talking about a lot of the similar things, whether it's cybersecurity, AI, or how do you code custom applications, how do you use tools, to create custom workflows or automations. And so all these things are intersecting together. And I think it's so important for you as a technologist to make sure that you're investing in ways to expand your skills. And of course, your certifications and your usual training, which you might do Udemy or something like that, is important. But I think the fastest way, the biggest bang for your buck to get that, to skill up and level up your perspective is a trade show. And so that's why I was excited to have Brian join, because his shows are actually some of the biggest and some of the best.
Awesome. All right, now let's get ready to move on to our next data point. So at this point, we've explored motivations, for attending conferences. Let's check out the next data set, and we've asked the same group of technology business decision makers, to describe their role in choosing conferences to attend. So the graph on display breaks down the data we uncovered. So Nico, what are your thoughts on this data? And do
Sure.
you see any benefits to attending as a team?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think what Brian had pointed out earlier is like some of these conferences are so huge. You look at the schedule and it's like, 15 sessions an hour for 8 hours a day, and it goes on for 3 or 4 days, and it's like hundreds and hundreds of sessions, and they all sound really good. But you, as one person, can't attend everything. And you actually can't absorb everything, and you can't meet every potential vendor that you like to talk to, and you can't go to every workshop or ask me anything session or lightning talks or whatever, right? So if you bring a buddy, or maybe even a couple, then you can start to divide and conquer and gain more from this convergence of expertise and the community into one location for a specific period of time. And so, as a company, and definitely as a leader of an IT or technology team, absolutely. I know you're like, yo, I can't send my whole team because we have who's going to make sure the servers keep running. But you could pick and choose, you might be like a couple of these guys, and, maybe somebody else can go, and each year send a few people. Definitely if you're a tech company. So we're live streaming this, and so a lot of tech companies might be watching. Well, guys, if you're not sponsoring or exhibiting at key technology trade shows, and I think Brian's are really great examples. Like I said, his are some of the biggest and the best in the country in these tech topics, especially in the Microsoft related stack. If you guys aren't exhibiting at conferences like this, then you could be missing really important conversations with key decision makers, because they're going there to skill up and to learn. And so it's very important to be there. So if we look at the data, a lot of people attend because of themselves, but a lot of people, maybe 25% or so, are going there to, register or build, their interactions for their team. So I think it's really important for, key IT leaders, if you've got a team, or if you're an individual contributor, but you to go to your boss and say, hey, look, send me and a buddy, right? So a couple of you guys can go, then you're going to get even more. And I don't think it's double. It's not like you get twice as much out of it. It's probably like you get 20 times out of it, right? You get 20 times more out of it, because not only are you going to get more content, get more insight, but you guys are going to have more interactions. You're going to have more networking opportunities with, other people in the industry, and you're just going to bring back so much more ideas and perspective. So I think that it's really great if you can, right? If you, especially if you're from a big team, and you can have a couple guys go, and then each year you just rotate, right? So I think it's a huge benefit for companies to send more than one person. What do you think, Brian?
I'm not going to elongate this question much more than you've answered because you've hit on all the topics. I would 100% agree with your whole assessment. Having more people from your company, you can go back, you can work things out together. And
Oh
then
my
the
gosh,
big
yeah.
thing is when you're selling it to your boss and or whatnot, is you want to be unified, right? So if you have two people
Hmm.
go, you can come back and you can basically do what we're doing. You basically put on your webinar for the rest of your team, and this is what
Yeah.
we learned. And having a buddy there with you helps ease that for you. So you're not
Yeah.
solely on the spot for like, hey, what did you learn at this
Hmm.
conference? By having somebody with you to partner with you throughout that time, take notes and whatnot. Because I
Hmm.
know with my company, when I worked for when I worked with Wells Fargo, when I went to a show myself, I'd feel very stressed out. I asked my boss for the money, right? And then all of a sudden I went to the show, and then I there's just so much riding on me. So
Yeah.
again, I'm going to use more relationships, not the technical aspect. And
Mhm.
it was very helpful that when I went with teams, because we could
Mhm.
divide and conquer and then come together and format our plan for when we come back to the office. What were the benefits of that show? So
Yeah, no, that's great. That's absolutely great.
Thank
And of
you.
course, if you're in tech and you are, you've been thinking about how you use your budget, do you do your own events? Do you exhibit at a conference? Well, I would say the conference business is fire hot right now, baby. So, pick a few. And I mean, we've been talking to folks and they go to every big conference in their area, their space. They've got their own booth, they've got a whole team. And so definitely if you're in tech, you find those conferences that align really well with your target vertical and, make sure you're at each one. The cost to exhibit at one of these conferences is probably the cost of a single in-person event that you do on your own. But instead of having maybe 15 people at your in-person event at a conference, you might have, like what Brian just said, 8,000 people walking through the exhibit hall, and the overwhelming majority of them are like your perfect customer. So in terms of the bang for your buck, I think exhibiting at a conference and bringing your sales team and some of your engineers would, like, it's just priceless. So I would definitely encourage that.
Yeah, guys, I'm seeing one question from the
Oh,
audience right now.
cool.
Do you
Okay.
have a tech event list for consideration?
So good. Yes, yes, we do. So, we actually have a list of tech conferences for the second half of 25 that we worked on with the team at BeTechly. All of Brian's conferences are on there. I think Brian's even working on another one, right? That might be happening later on this year. So we will make sure that we get that list, you guys. And I think what we're going to do, guys, working with the BeTechly team, is post this event, we're going to send you not only a link to the replay and all that good stuff, but we're going to send you a list of conferences that you might attend. And of course, we're going to highlight Brian's really great conferences so you can discover them. But there's so many tech conferences that I think technologists could be attending. And then you pick, maybe you could get into, right, one a quarter. That's what I would pitch to my boss if I were you, right? One a
Mm.
quarter and skill up, and you choose strategic conferences where you get the biggest bang for your buck. So we'll make sure you get that. Thank you for that question.
Yay. All right, are we ready to move on to the next slide?
Cool.
All right, now let me just make sure I'm on the right screen right here. Well,
Mhm.
several factors can limit or prevent
It's not
participation.
sharing. Yep,
Oh,
it's still the same one.
oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm actually going to
Okay.
that next slide
Yep.
now.
Yep. Okay,
Well,
cool.
several factors can limit or prevent participation in tech trade shows, right? Now, what you can see on the screen are the answers that we've uncovered from 95 technology business decision makers. So I'm handling it back over to Nico to interpret the data we're seeing and share
Yes.
insights on the best cost justification for attending a trade show.
Yes, yes, yes. So it's all, and like, for me as the owner of a company, it's always like an expense, and it's thousands of dollars really, right? When you think about the conference fees and the travel and a few days off, maybe it's two, three, $4,000 really if you add everything up. And so it sounds like, oh my gosh, right? That sounds like so much. But when you think about the benefit of the that investment, that person you've just invested that money in now has got, I mean, they've really like leveled up their skills in just a few days. They've come back with strategic guidance and insight. I know for me, after I came back from the Microsoft 365 Community Conference, like, I'm not kidding you guys, right away, I was like, okay, we're going to use Copilot. This is how we're using it. We did some training, and it's really transformed how we operate. And that's not an infomercial. It's a little example that, because I got that exposure at that conference and I could see how it was easy to do, I was able to bring it back into my company and implement it without issue, without roadblocks or what have you. And the same is true for you guys. So, high cost, how do you justify that? Well, you come back and you bring that business benefit, which is the clear strategy, the vision, and the direction of how you're going to take certain technologies and implement them into your company more efficiently, more quickly, and generate more results in a reduced time frame. And I think that's really the biggest benefit. Other benefits for justifying that cost is that it could reduce the windows of activity, certain things like an AI project, for example. We were just talking to one of our clients earlier this morning, and they have an AI solution. And they said that their solution takes something that usually takes 45 days to do and condenses it down to 24 hours. So, there's so many of these incredible solutions out there, and the best way for you to gain exposure to them and to discover them is to go to something like a trade show where you could talk to a lot of vendors and explore a lot of options. And that will save you money. It'll save you time, and time is money. But Brian, don't you guys have these great convince your boss letters for each of your
Absolutely.
conferences? Why don't you talk about that?
Yeah, absolutely. It's not to be sneaky or whatnot, but it's always difficult. How do I explain it to my boss? What's the benefit for me going to a show? So a lot of our sites, if you go out to them, or something that you can even reach out to Nico or myself for, is really that statement of like, when you're requesting to go, why is this conference matter? Why is this one important to you and whatnot? So again, we put all that material together for you so you can use it, use bits and pieces of it. But again, there's no better place than, just going to a in-person conference. I can say the biggest barrier that I've seen that isn't on this list, I don't
Mm-hmm.
think, um, but it's technology. Like right now, we're
Mm.
virtually talking to each other. We're doing a webinar.
Oh,
There's
interesting.
Microsoft Teams, there's Zoom,
Mhm.
etc. And so that was my first experience with my company was like, hey, Brian, why do you have to come out and meet with, let's say, my said team as an example? So we cut all travel when things were going on in the world and whatnot, and
Mm-hmm.
COVID pre and post. Hey, we discovered that you could use the technology. You don't have to fly out to North Carolina to meet with your 20 or so direct reports. Why don't you do
Right.
this or that through there? But again, it's the heart of the whole thing. And I'll give you one tidbit. Hopefully, well, I don't work
I
there
love it.
anymore, so my old
Yeah.
boss wouldn't be listening to this. But you know, it's that whole return to office, right? So if you work for a large company, it was COVID came around, working from home, everybody to work from home. And I think in that result, they really realized that paying for real estate to have people come into the office wasn't really that necessary, right? But there's a
Hmm.
lot of these leases and terms and real estate that your companies have paid for per se. And so, yeah, they want you to return to office now. So I find it kind of controversial that they say, for example, hey, what? I don't think you really need to fly out to see your team members to have a meeting or to meet with your customers in person when you can do it virtually. Well, that's
Yeah.
interesting. I thought the whole purpose to return to office was the interaction that you wanted us to have with our teams, with our customers, and things of that nature. So, kind of twofold there is that, you have these large companies asking you to come back into the office to interact, and there's no better way to work than with peers. But then again, when you ask for those dollars to go to a training conference or to
Hmm.
actually travel to see your direct reports or other team members, then there's another aspect there. So that's
Sure.
just between all of us. But again, it's very
Yeah.
true. The whole in
Hmm.
person is the only way to do it. Um, so there's other opportunities here too. I think one of the points was is a large conference because our conferences are usually again 3,000 to 6,000 people. Some of them are a bit smaller. I don't want to say they're all that large. Majority the
Hmm.
four big ones are that size. We have the smaller ones that range anywhere from 800 to 1,500. But I can tell you, if you're going to a large show, I seen one of the things was is I'm a little nervous about going because it's too large. It's always
Hmm.
important to go out to the website or go out and email the company that's putting on the conference, and research, research, research. See what the schedule looks like. Go with a plan in mind, so you just don't want to just go and show up and open up the booklet or look on the app online and see all the classes. Make sure you spend that amount of time before you show up to figure out, like, what is your plan of attack? What sessions are you going to go to? And not only that, I see on here it's about location, right? Undesirable
Mhm.
location. Well, I have to tell
Sure.
you, um, we know what desirable locations are. So when we do shows, we'll do them in Orlando. We did it at the Swan Dolphin because we know after the show, and if you don't want to leave family and you want that work balance of life, and maybe there's somebody in the partnership like, oh, you're going to Orlando and for
Yeah.
work and you're not, well, we hold our shows in that vicinity because we know if you want to have family with you that are doing something while you're in class, that you can go off, you can go to those parks and enjoy those parks, if you will. Another big location for us is Las Vegas. Going to Las Vegas, I'm not saying, hey, let's go out to the strip, bring your family to this strip, if you will, but there's a lot of locations there. There's a lot of great restaurants. There's a lot of sports teams out there that moved out there. So again, you're there for the show, but you can bring your significant other to those shows, your family, your kids to these shows so
Sure.
they can go off and do other things. Again, undesirable location was a big thing. And for us, it just so happens that we choose these. We don't choose convention centers just to have you come in and see you later. You're on your own for
Yeah.
the rest of the day. You're gonna come, you're gonna enjoy. I'm repeating what I said earlier. You're gonna come. And it's not just my shows that I'm talking about. Go out to other shows. They do, you'll want to see what are the activities. And I know that's not a convince your boss, hey, by the way, I can see Christina Aguilera or this last show, Ex Ambassadors, we had there to go to a concert. But at the same time, it is healthy to unwind. I just sat through classes all day. I want to go ahead and I want to unwind. Well, what better way? I don't got to buy a Cirque du Soleil ticket or whatever. I get to go to an attendee party where I have a private showing of a huge band that I've never seen before that I wanted to see. And your conference ticket gets you there. Right. And then theme parks. When we're in Orlando and we do these shows that will be on the list, the attendee parties are at the theme park. So you're learning, 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 absorbing all day long. And then after that, you're not just sitting in your hotel room and just trying to figure out, do I go to the bar and have a drink or try to go lonesome to a restaurant? No, you have a ticket to go to Universal Studios or if it's at the Disney
Cool.
resort. So again, desirable locations. Always when you're looking for shows, look for what's happening afterwards. What do I get to do? Because if I'm 8 hours in class or 6 to 8, what do I do with all that time at nighttime?
Yeah.
Yeah, I could check my company emails, right? But who wants to do that? I want to unwind. I want to figure out how to do that. And so again, it's very important that you go and research the show and see what sessions are going on, what activities are going on, and what's in it for you. Not just your company, but what's in it for you with your peace of mind to be able to absorb and be fresh the next day and basically jump right back into another session. So,
Such a great perspective. Oh my gosh, Brian, that was perfect. And you know what, the point that I want you guys to take away, and when you talk to your colleagues and your boss, Brian's point is, when you research each conference, look at where it's located, like in Brian's cases, their conferences are at these, five-star resort, because, hotels where it's like, the conference center and the hotel are connected. So it's a lot of things for you to do instead of a convention center where it's like, a lot of back and forth and it's not so much that great holistic experience. I think taking that into consideration when you're considering which show to go to is very important because, like what he said, I thought the point that you made about, like, hey, when you're roaming around and go get a coffee or go have a bite, you're going to see other people, that community, right, at this, throughout your experience at this conference hotel, and that's going to create such a vibe and such a sphere. And I can agree with that. And actually, I did bring my family to the Las Vegas show and they had a ball and it was great. So I think that those are things to consider. The last point that I'll make for you guys before we move on to the next part, because we've got something kind of cool to share with you guys, is, I don't know about you guys, but for me, these last few years with everything that's happened, and I know people don't like to talk about the lockdowns or the pandemic or whatever because they're like, it's over and I want it to be behind me. But the truth is, it's affected a lot of aspects of our society. It's affected how children have learned, and there are things to deal with regard to that. It's affected social norms. It's affected mental health. It's really affected a lot of parts of our society that we really should be, we need to be dealing with, right? And so back to you when you're thinking about, well, do I go to a trade show? Oh, I don't really want to talk to all those people. It's so busy. My feet are going to hurt. But what I'll say to you guys is I'll challenge you. Get out and go to a show. I assure you, you're going to be reinvigorated and re-energized and reconnected. Like, if that's the big message, is to get reconnected with the community of IT professionals, the community of business technology decision makers, that community that you're a part of. There's going to be no better way for you to get re-excited and re-energized and rebalanced and just recommitted to the future than to go to a show. And the bigger the better. Like I said, these guys have huge shows. This one coming up in October. I mean, they got just so many huge things. And I know Brian dropped it like it was small. But he's like, yeah, we just got a little Christina Aguilera coming. Can you imagine how big this show must be to have somebody like that? And that's going to be putting on a private concert for the show attendees. I mean, that's a big deal. So just think about how many people are going to be there and the energy and the electricity that'll come off of it. So think of it that way, not just an opportunity to expand your skills or an opportunity to network or an opportunity to explore new things, but it's actually an opportunity for you to get re-energized. So think of it that way. There
Yeah,
you go.
Thank you.
I do like that point. I mean, I have to admit I've had opportunities in my career where I worked there about, again, Wells Fargo 24, 25 years. And, I was in somewhat the same sector. It was like going into the office and doing the same routine. And I enjoyed what I did, so it was fine.
Mm-hmm.
But I have to say, we had a internal conference, if you will,
Mm-hmm.
and they picked the top 3% within Wells Fargo to go to a conference, a sales and service conference. They
So
took me
cool.
there. It was a couple days, and I have to tell you that I was in a rut. I was kind of like, okay, what's my next move? What's my next move?
Mm-hmm.
I went to this sales and service conference, and I have to tell you, I left there feeling so passionate and just
Mm-hmm.
came back to work that following week
Yeah.
and actually the creativity, the motivation I had to continue to improve my skill sets, if you will, and kind of bring
Mm-hmm.
back to my company. I was
Yeah.
just really motivated, and I have to tell you that, I mean, that was because I was around a community of peers and people who had the same objectives. They were both like, it was at mid career, about 12
Mm-hmm.
years in, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I had this kind of dull kind of moment of like, what am I
Mm-hmm.
doing with my life? Is this really where I want to be?
Mm-hmm.
By going to that conference, it was Wells Fargo was where I wanted to be at that time. I just had to
Mm-hmm.
be remotivated and hear from other peers that they were going through the same type of challenges with their mindset of like, where's my skills, where do I go? And again, it was all from a conference and being able to converse with multiple people from around not just the US but around the world. From people came in from India, the Philippines, et cetera, et cetera. And I had that opportunity to really talk to them and hear their passion, and kind of it reignited me being at this
Yeah.
conference to really get going again. I
I
started the
love it.
beginning of this call that I'm not going to talk to you about skills and tech. That's going to be Nico.
Yeah.
And I'm going to talk to you about the real world, like the heart, the brain,
Yeah.
and the
I love
feels of
it.
it. And that's where I'm at with shows, if you will, because the content will be there, but it's
Yeah.
really about doing your research to make sure the community is there and it's the
Mhm.
right experience that you want to be able to be successful in that funds that either you're paying, because you might be an owner of a business on this
Yeah.
call. And so
Mhm.
you're not just using the company money, you're using your money from the business to go to these shows. And again, that's why it's very important to do your due diligence. And I respect the fact that you're here listening to this because it is an investment. And hopefully you've gained some knowledge from Nico and myself on things that we think about when we're thinking about shows and
Mhm.
things to really maximize your
Hey
time when you
guys,
are
just
at a
time
show.
check.
So,
One more
yep,
Thank
minute.
you.
you're
We're
all
starting to
set.
move on.
Yep.
Thank you. Yeah.
All
So